This is the city of Hobart, Tasmania, just 1,600 miles north of the Antarctic continent. I live here in an average Tasmanian home where I get up earlier than most of the population to start my day's work. It's not far to the docks from almost any part of Hobart, even though 120,000 people live here. I'm a fisherman, skipper of a shark boat actually, and I'm pretty proud of it. Every day is a new adventure in the shipping business, and it begins when the lines are cast off and the drawbridge goes up. The rest of the world seems closer when we pass ships from all over the globe. With Mount Wellington standing guard over our families, we head out for what we hope will be a big catch. There's something about sea spray that gets into the heart of every sailor, and I'm no exception. On this particular morning, I remember the barracouta boats passed us when we were hardly out of the river, and they were soon well on the way to getting their big catch. The Australian barracuda is no relation to the savage barracuda of the West Indies, but belongs to the mackerel clan, and when he's biting, he's a full-time job. This big catch will soon be on Australian tables. On my boat, we use cuda for bait because the harmless sharks we fish for list it as a delicacy on their menu. Our fishing technique is pretty simple really. Just put out enough baited hooks and pick up the catch. We're fishing today off the coast of Bruny Island, one of the first pieces of Tasmanian real estate to be discovered back in the 18th century. Our fishing begins when we cast over the first buoy marker at the beginning of a line 1.5 miles long. We'll put out a couple of lines today with a hook snapped on every 20 feet. When we finally get our 3 miles of baited hooks overboard, we start picking up the first ones we put out. It's hard to beat shark meat for real good eating. And these school sharks and gummy shark we're catching are protected by law with legal sizes and seasons. We've nicknamed the school shark Snapper because his teeth are so small he can only take off a finger or two. We can't be too choosy in our business, and every once in a while we pick one up that isn't so gummy, and he gets special handling. We keep in touch with the other fishermen by radio, and they tell us the crayfishing looks good at Port Davey. The echo sounder paints a picture of the bottom for the crayfish men and tells them just where they should set out their pots. Crayfish boats stay out about 10 days on a normal trip and account for Tasmania's most important fish export, running to nearly 2,000 tonnes a year. Bait is secured inside the pot, so Mr. Crayfish has to get at it through the funnel at the top. The reason you can catch a cray this way is that he's too stupid to find his way out again. While we set out another line of pots, let's see what's going on down below where we put out the first ones. Each line of pots, usually a dozen to a line, are down about an hour. That's long enough for Mr. Crayfish to find his way in the top, and not quite long enough for the octopus or sea lice to steal the bait. Each crayfish boat will catch up to 200 dozen crays on a 10-day trip, and they make a colourful picture as they come aboard. Here's a big catch that hasn't been sorted yet. But when they're measured for legal size, the ones thrown in the well will soon be on dinner tables all over the world. At night, thoughts and pleasures are pretty simple. A homemade tune while you dream about your big catch and the time you'll be home again. At sunrise on the east coast, the salmon fishermen are using modern methods to spot their big catch, and the plane takes off early to guide them. An aerial fish spotter is actually part of the fleet, and his job drones on and on while he's looking for the possible catch. It can take days to spot a commercial-sized school of salmon, but this morning he's lucky. The pilot has spotted a school of salmon, but they're near the rocks where they can't be taken. The boats are getting ready to hunt them when they move. Bows cutting cleanly through the blue waters, they head for the spot. And there they are. They've moved out of the rocks where they can be netted.
About 2 miles south of Cape Valley. I'll turn over them and you can get a bearing. Roger. As sighted you, we're on our way.
The shoal of salmon has been spotted on the coast not far from Triabunna, which the salmon boats call home. And before long it begins to look like a chase in a western movie as the boats race to the scene. When the prey is properly cornered, the salmon fishermen quickly row a net around them, and they've trapped about 5 tonnes of fighting good eating this time. The Australian salmon is no relation to the salmon of the Northern Hemisphere, and none of us know how he happened to be called salmon, because he's really the fightingest member of the perch family to be found in salt water. You have to be pretty rugged for this kind of fishing, but Tasmania has some of the best fishermen specimens to be found in the world. Everybody helps when the salmon are surrounded and the net is pulled tighter and tighter around this 5 tonnes of silver fury. The fish are gradually forced back into a bag or funnel net that's released when full and towed back to the trawlers. The funnel net is unloaded the hard way. It takes a lot longer and it's a lot harder than it looks here, but on this particular day the men have been lucky and their big catch is on board. We all pitch in during the short scallop season, and with the addition of a platform on the stern of any fishing boat, we can dredge for these tasty shellfish. There are about 50 boats working the beds just off Bruny Island. They work back and forth 12 hours a day across this rich half mile. Even with scallops, the undersized ones are returned to the water for next year's big catch. The legal ones are put in bags for sales in Australia and overseas. Down below the surface of the Tasman Sea, in 120 feet of water, dredgers scour the bottom for scallops, while the seagulls get a feed from other marine life that comes up. Once in a while, the boys like to have a little fun while they look over the sea world from 20 fathoms down. It's a green world here, without much light filtering through the water. But here we uncover one of the most dramatic secrets of the scallop. He can swim. The scallop learned about jet propulsion long before man did, and he swims pretty well for a shellfish by taking in water through the front of his shell and expelling it forcefully out the back in two powerful jets. Even the shy flathead likes a taste of scallop when he can get it, and he has no objection to who serves it. The flathead is found only in Australia and parts of Asia, but he's good eating and good fishing. In in spite of our commercial fishing, some scallops even live to be grandfathers. It's quite a sight when the Tasmanian fishing fleet heads for home. Some have been out for days or even weeks, and I can tell you the sight of Hobart is a promise of more than just solid ground. The big catch is ashore, and Hobart, just 1,600 miles from the Antarctic continent, means home and fireside to the fishermen. And when you get right down to it, that's the fisherman's real big catch.